Can't have friends in business. People are an employee for a reason. Any business owner out there that thinks that the employee should be doing more, that's why they're not a business owner.
Ryan Frahm, founder and managing director of Green Connect.
One of South Australia's emerging leaders in commercial and industrial electrical contracting.
And I remember said to my accountant right at the start, he goes, "What's your 5-year vision?" I just thought I'd put some stupid number out. I said, 5 million and 20 blokes. And he goes, "Oh yeah?" Fucking made that in like 3 years.
But before the success, Ryan faced the toughest battle of his life.
So you're sitting there at night time and you decide to reach out to us.
I looked at business and I went, right, things aren't perfect there. Looked at my relationship, things aren't perfect there. Come mid-year, I'm like, that was the rock bottom. I was drinking, gambling.
Searching for a way forward, he made one decision that would change everything.
Listened to your podcast and I went, I've had enough. 2 years I've really worked with you with business. We've gone from a $3 million business to 10. Michelle and I, for the first time in 10 years, are officially debt-free.
How has a lot of the frameworks that I teach and a lot of the mindset stuff that I teach made you better in business?
3 things.
So you're sitting there at night time and you decide to reach out to us. Describe what was going on in your business. Describe what was going on. Like, what happened to get you to reach that low point?
I remember I was at the gym and I was just doing a session. Halfway through my weight session, I was listening to your podcast and I went, I've had enough. This guy is even my long lost brother and I need to just connect with him for that sake. Or I'm like, if he's even speaking 5% of that is truth, my man, spoke your language straight away.
What was it though? What was the low point? Most people only ask for help when they're at rock bottom or worst case scenarios happen or they're just sick of going through the same shit over and over and over again. Yep. What was it for you at that time?
I think that entire year, let's retrace it back, 2023. January, I went through a weight problem early in the year. I was like, I need to retrace. I just need to get back to where I was happy. So I started to look at my weight. I knew I had the ability to do that myself. Then I looked at business and I went, right, things aren't perfect there. Looked at my relationship, things aren't perfect there. Come mid-year, I'm like, that was the rock bottom. So if we go 3 months ahead of that, I'd work through it myself to go, I've already hit my rock bottom. Now it's about where I need to be going forward. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this myself, but I need to be supported by someone or something or a mindset or a challenge that would get me up out of bed and be like, that's the man I want to be, and that's the fucking husband, the business owner, and the parent one day I want to be.
How did you come across our stuff? Like, I mean, there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of stuff out there. How did you find like Mojo, Michael Mojo, the podcast, all that sort of stuff?
Honestly, someone just sent me a podcast.
Oh, really?
That's all it was. They sent me the podcast and I just snapped straight away. I reckon I looked at your Instagram account. Like, honestly, in a space of 24 hours, I listened to 3 of your podcasts. That was related to personal and professional. That one particularly was. I think it was all money related, all these other little things. And then I looked at your Instagram. I reckon I texted you and within, I'm going to say half an hour, you were straight back onto me. And, awesome. and honestly, like we got on a phone call the next day and I reckon within a week I was sold, set, let's go.
Yep. What was it like? What was it that sort of connected with you? The reason why I ask this is that the majority of the time, like as you know, you've been a client and now a friend for 3 years now?
Yeah, it would be, in October. Effectively, I've known you 3 years.
Yeah. And you hear me talk about this all the time that I say it in the community, like that the chances of our community succeeding is quite high compared to the general average of the population.
Yep.
Because most business owners stay stuck and they just keep going around in circles. And I think you've noticed this more and more because you've had conversations with me about some of those business owners who are good operators, but they just can't shift out of first gear. Like they're doing all the work, they're working their ass off, they hire people, those people leave, then they're fucked off, then customers don't pay. And you just watch them loop. And I know that you've been there in the past, but what do you think is the difference for you now? And what was the difference for you then when you made that decision?
I think back at the start, I could see that this wasn't just an overnight issue I was having. Like I was into my second marriage for starters. I was looking at the business. I'd gone through a rapid growth a few years prior and then I was still in a rut a couple of years later. You got to look at it and go, if things aren't changing and if your environment isn't changing, and things aren't improving, then there's something wrong. It was as simple as that. So I knew my first marriage was something that failed mutually, I'm going to say. And I took learnings out of that and I went, right. And I look at the business and I went, okay, I was in a called a 2.0 and I was in a marriage which is a 2.0. I went, right, I just need to be around people who can get the best out of me. And I look back at when I was 18 years old, right? I always retrace myself back to this because I remember I was playing footy, all right? And I remember a coach that brought the best out of me. I was always told I could get to places, but I never got there. And then there was this 1 year, it just connected. And I was best and fairest. I come second in the male medal in the Riverland. Like all these things, it just connected. And then, unfortunately, he passed away. Really young fella, had deep vein thrombosis. And it just stood back to me and I was like, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, but if I'm around people who can get the best out of me, I will thrive. And then and that's what sold it to me. I looked at you, I looked at your journey. I feel that you and I have very similar trajectories. We're similar age, different lifestyles, don't get me wrong, only child. But the way that your parents, my parents, some of the issues I've had throughout my journey, then looking at how I could improve, I was like, this guy could actually relate to me. And then going back to when I was 18, this guy, who was my coach back then, there's a lot of similarities back then too as well. And I went, right, cool. I can learn from people who've actually gone and lived it. That's where I thrive.
What's the difference, do you think, between those people? Like, I mean, you've had a few people in the business space who you see are struggling in business or you see their potential and, you know, I get the text message, hey, brother, I need you to like have a chat with this guy and, you know, I have a chat or I catch up with them or whatever.
Yep.
And they don't go any further. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think is the difference between people like yourself and other people that now you become friends with in the community and things like that? What is that difference that you see in the people who are doing big things and consistently grow? For example, Blake or, you know, Riley and guys like that who are, you know, smashing numbers and their life gets better year after year because they're stacking all the learnings and stuff.
Yeah.
Versus the people, you know, that some of those we've had a chat about where they need help, they want help, they complain about it, but then they don't do anything about it.
Two things, and look, I can't speak on their behalf, but on
No,
my
fuck
behalf,
it, do it.
No, look, I think lack of losing control. I think these people want full control, and I think personally, they've either got a fear of it failing if they're not in control, or they don't want to face the reality that there's a better way to do things. I think they're the two key factors in my opinion. If I look at people who are thriving, they know that they've either gone through something that they've either hit the ceiling consistently and they know they need support, whereas these other people go, let's say there must be like, I don't know, I can't answer. It's a really tough one. There's either they're scared, they either don't want to lose that feeling that they're the powerhouse. I don't know. Like to me, I want to be...
Which is scared.
I want to be the fucking smallest fish in the pond, mate. I don't want to be the biggest fish in the pond. Honestly, I don't want to have competition. I don't care about competition. I want everyone to work together as a team. That's my ideal environment. If I get like compared to other electrical contractors that I'm trying to do this or trying to do that, no, I've got my own fucking lanes. I find that people that I've recommended and they haven't necessarily come on, it's because they either got a fear of growing, got a fear of losing control, or got a fear of that they could do things better and they don't want to admit it.
So it's like an insecurity.
I think it's an insecurity thing, yeah. Whereas I'm like, me personally, and I'll look at, say, Blake and Riley, for example, I'll look at those two and I think we're all similar. We can see the long journey. We can see 5 years ahead. And that's maybe something else other people aren't clear on, is they don't know their trajectory or where they're going. And if people are clear, it doesn't matter what's in your fucking way. You will burst through every single boulder, every rock, every fucking thing that gets thrown at you because you're going to chase that fucking goal.
It's interesting because you're saying about how important the vision and the mission and things like that. And you'll hear me reinforce that in the community all the time. Like
all the time.
Because the truth is that, and you know, we've had these conversations as well where you're going to go through shit either way, right? I had this conversation with Jess last night and I was like, it's fucking hard to be awesome, but it's also hard to be shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's uncomfortable to be great and it's uncomfortable to be shit. So like, You just pick which one you want.
Yeah.
And most people just go to the easiest option because it's all they know, and averages around them everywhere. So you can see what average shit looks like versus great shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Couldn't agree
or
with
great challenge, you know, and I think, well, I'm going to ask you the question. Do you think that a lot of the fantasies that we're sold about business and life destroys most people in business?
Yeah, I think there's a perception out there that like you being a business owner, you're loaded. I had someone come up to me the other day. I can't remember the conversation or what it was about, but they made a comment to me going, "Oh, you're a business owner, you're loaded," and I went, "Fuck!" Like literally, like I look at this is here's something for you, and I don't care telling the fucking world. Michelle and I, for the first time in 10 years, are officially debt free. For 10 years, I racked up more debt. I fucking had cactus after cactus after cactus coming after me. And that is the first time in 10 years. All right. Now, regardless, I could have stripped more money out of the business and could have supported myself personally, but I could see the ROI. A lot of people who are quite not willing to take the jump,
Ignorant.
they either have a fantasy that they need to have these things that make them happy. But to me, I've got a different motive. Mine is the long goal. And that's where I look at successful business owners that I know. They don't look at what they're earning today. They look at what they're earning in the years to come. Their vision's clear. And more importantly, they don't give a fuck what they have to chew along the way. They will not lose goal or lose vision of that goal. That's my honest opinion anyway.
It's interesting that a lot of people think that business owners make all this money and shit. Whereas when you look at it, like 56% of businesses go bankrupt in the first 4 years. That's like 50% of people rolled the dice and they put it on black and they just lost all their cash.
Mate, I was apprentice of a year for 6 years running. I fucking earned the same income as an apprentice for 6 years. And I'm okay with that. But like, I don't know if other people are, you know, and maybe, and I mean, I can't speak on behalf of other business owners, but like, then I look at it though and go, I was also earning shit money, but I was drinking, having fun, gambling. I wasn't a compulsive either, but I've got two speeds, 0 and 100. So I'd either go hard or go home. And then that's when you realize, you go, right, the most valuable thing you have is time. And I look at it and go, if I just stayed clear on where I'm going, stop forcing my life, creating the flow as we've recently discussed, that is going to be the consistency that I need. A lot of people who I don't believe are willing to either get a support or be a part of an environment where they can grow is they're not really sure what they can get out of it because they're either not set that they want to be consistent or disciplined as well.
It's interesting because you just said they're looking at what they can get out of it. But I also find that that's a weakness of most business owners. They're always looking at what they can get. Yeah. They're not, like I had a young kid the other day, and just going off topic a little bit, but you can give your perspective on it. This young kid, he, when I say young kid, you know, he's probably in his 20s and, you know, he's gone, you know, I want to go out and start my own business because I want to like buy a Lambo and I want to do all this stuff. And, you know, and he's like, you know, well, what, like, how do you get successful? And I'm like, you're asking too many different questions. Like, number one, the only way that you grow is right now you have a knowledge gap and you've got a skills gap. They're the only two gaps you've got. So you need to get better with your skills and you've got to get better with your knowledge, which means you've got to invest in it. But most people in their 20s work to earn instead of working to learn. And those who are normally rich in their 30s or 40s are normally, they're working to like earn. I'm even the same these days. Like, you know how much money I invest in education and putting 100%. Myself in the right rooms and being around the right people. But I think people are more worried about, and you said it before, right? Like, what do I get today? What do I get? And they're always thinking about what I can get. And then when they've got a small business, they operate as an operator.
100%.
If I'm paying them, well, I got to get more than them because I'm the boss and I need my new Hilux and my new fucking Land Cruiser and my new boat and my weight setter and my, because I feel shit about what I do every day.
I still don't own a fucking house. And I'm okay with that. But everyone's got to look at what are you willing to invest to reach your journey.
I know it's hard coming and hanging out in your box on the street.
Felt like it at one point.
Does not have a house.
I mean, Michelle and I only just recently moved into a house and we went from one extreme to the other. We went from...
I like these cuts. No. We just moved into a house.
We moved in 12 months ago into a larger house. We were borderline in a dog box only for flight path for like 4.5 years. All right. And obviously we just had Nala as well. Like it would have been literally, you know... it would have been living in the slums. We would have had no room. But we're moving into a nice home now in a nice sort of area. But like I said, like I look at that and go, that was amazing. That was a journey, man. I look at that and go, oh, don't get me wrong, right at the end, and Michelle will back me up here, I was like, fuck, we got to move, babe. Like there's only so much you can do. But I guess from my perspective is I've looked at it and gone, I'm 42. 20-year-old lads, they're not going to relate to you and I. They're going to look at us and go, fuck, they're successful. And look, don't get me wrong, I think we live good lives for what we've built. But the sacrifice, I was only talking to Michelle the other day. I've never worked a 40-hour week, ever. I'm talking fucking ever. Now, I don't know why. Might blame my old boy back in the day, or my stepfather. He had me out there working when I was fucking 12 years old, but I've always worked more. And I've always gone, why? And I've never understood why. It's because that's just how I'm geared. Mm. And I don't want to be set in a set structure where I do this. I want to have the ability to grow. And I go, if I can then spend my time in the most efficient and effective areas, I will one day fucking succeed to the level that most others can't. And that's my driver. And I knew throughout my journey, throughout my first job to every job I went into, I always worked my way up. So that's when I was like, going back to what you were saying before and going back to these 20-year-olds, you got to be dick punched so hard over and over and over and over until you realize that shit's not easy. And that the only way you're going to get there is by surrounding yourself with the best people possible.
Key to success, dick punch.
Dick punch. Do it.
That's
do it.
it.
I don't know what...
Sorry, ladies.
Sorry, ladies.
You know,
yeah. Maybe I don't want to speak on behalf of women. They go through enough. But yeah, that's my driver. I'm like, cool. Everything I've got in my life, I deserved it. You know, I don't go, why me, why me, why me? Don't get me wrong. When I was at the lowest point a few years ago, I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, what have I done? Like, but then I think everyone needs to hit that point where you're like, you are so fucking powerless. What are you going to do to get out of it? It's just whether you've got that pure bit of dog and grit in you that you can actually fucking just go, right, I'm done with this. This is the new fucking journey I'm on. I'm passionate about that shit.
I'm curious that how do you go through the different stages of growth, right? So like a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast are operators in business. And I define an operator as someone who does the majority of work in their business themselves. So, you know, they normally have, you know, potentially under 10 staff. They're going to be doing part admin, part, you know, operations, sort of trying to build systems, but the systems are shit and are falling apart because they're pretty shit at it.
Using AI
they're trying to do leadership. They're out on the job site. They say, but all my customers, they want to speak to me. And so you go from there and then you've got to go through this chasm. You know, I talk about this all the time in Odyssey of going through the J curve. You jump into it, you start to slide down, you go, shit, everything's getting worse. And then if you keep going, eventually, if you learn what you need to learn and you build the skills, you kick your way out of it and you go to the next high. But then as you go through your leadership, there's this like growth phase, and I guess I'm going through part of it now, which is I know I'm a good leader and I know I have the leadership skills, but the next phase that I need to go to is starting to use capital differently. So like at the moment, I'm investing a lot of money in other businesses and things like that. But there's also this fear of like, shit, I don't have enough money to invest in everything that I want to invest in. Like, do I just go out and like grind and push sales because I'm good at it? Or like, the reason why I'm asking you is that there's a lot of people, I guarantee, who are listening to this, who they're going from an operator and they know that they need to they know they need to go and become a leader. They know that it's uncomfortable to do that. Most people climb out of the J curve and they go back to doing what they've always done, which is be an operator. But operators build operators and leaders build leaders.
100%.
How did you negotiate that phase? Because it's scary as fuck because you're essentially jumping into the unknown. You don't know how it's going to work out. All of your success is built on being an operator. And now you have to try to lead a team and build a team, and you can't be erratic and chaotic and win jobs and do all the work yourself and quality control and micromanage everybody. How did you go through that phase? What were your key learnings? What were the key things that helped?
You got to be prepared that people are going to be unsatisfied that work for you, not your workers, but your clients. They're going to see a difference once you have other people taking power. But if you clearly communicate the structure you've built and you allow other people to take responsibility of something that you've created, 90% of the time, if you've selected those people who have key strengths in areas that you might not necessarily have as high strength, or you aren't necessarily spread in the right area. If you empower others to take care of tasks that you are spending valuable time doing meaningless tasks or doing unstructured tasks where you can't grow the business, you're never going to grow. So for me, I went, the best thing to do is to build my knowledge. Like I wanted to pass on my knowledge to people. And I think there's always going to be a fear there because I have at points gone, well, I need to get back in and reset it, redo this, redo that. And I've recently set, certain parts in the business because you're always going to evolve. But I put it back to the fact that if you know where you're going 5 years in advance and you're not going to get there by yourself, you're going to be willing to understand that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stomach that. You're going to realize that you're not going to satisfy everyone. But if people generally know that you are on the right journey and they are on that journey with you, you will fucking get there.
How important is it to be clear on that journey to be able to sell it, especially when you're...
Every fucking day. Like if you're not telling at least one person in your business where you're going and why, that vision gets muddled. And don't get me wrong, like our vision might change slightly along the journey, meaning the mission might swap here, we might jump there, but the vision doesn't change. That is going to be the most unachievable fucking thing you can ever achieve, right? It needs to be the pinnacle of life. I'll be honest, like I'm happy enough to talk about it from a business point of view because I went through it over the last 12 months, right? If you'd like me to.
Yeah, go for it. The mic's yours, brother.
No, it was obviously, like I unexpectedly, Michelle and I decided to have a child, or have a baby a couple of years ago. It didn't work out. And then now with everything, we had a good structure, say 18 months ago to look into it. And it did, it just happened. We thought it was going to take a long time. So I reactively had to restructure the business that we had formed, say early last year, early 2025. So by middle of 2025, had to restructure a few things differently. Look, the business itself on paper looked like it was ready to go perfect. And something I've learned now, and this is a really great learning, is the business, we doubled people across multiple areas of the business or included more people across the business. But something that you don't realize at that point is you can't just bring in people and then expect for them to understand the GC way. Can't understand how we've gone through that journey to get to where we have. Everyone's got a different mode. Everyone's got a different passion in life. But more importantly, everyone's got a different skill set. And when you look back at it, you go, just because you bring in people, you've got to be willing to do one thing, and that's develop people. And that's when I look back at it and go, that is my key strength. I can develop people. I hate getting in the way of people. But my biggest probably downfall in life is that I lose structure. And that's probably the ADHD I got in myself. I'm a visionary. I'm not a maintenance worker. I can set the goal, but it's hard for me to maintain. So that's where I'm like, cool, that's my goal in life. I do this. I do that perfectly. No one else can do it as good as I can. But there's a lot of things that I don't do good. And then I've empowered so many people in our business to then bring that next evolution. So then when we bring in, say, 20 people, let's say 15 are good, 5 might need improvement. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's the only way that you can then, in my opinion, feel comfortable that you can grow a company and leave a legacy, is because then you've got the people that can bring in strengths of where you're going, but they're getting trained, developed, and they know where they're going for the long term as well.
So what do you look for in a good employee?
Attitude. Fuck skill set. Mm-hmm. The best people that have ever worked for Green Connect, and anyone who's ever been in business, I believe you can build a skill, you can't build an attitude, right? Like all of us started with no skill. We had attitude. We had drive.
If you ask an operator though, mate, they were born with skill.
Look, I'm not going to lie.
Like,
there's some people who are naturally born with skill, right? And those skills you need it. Yeah, you like. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's got skill, but you also got to have an appetite. I think what I mean by that is people have passion, and where that skill sits within that passion is where you need to then build on that. But the attitude's what's going to get people to where they're going to be. So number one, our core values. If they don't align to our core values straight away, like we've got a recruitment process at the moment for apprentices. We've had 6 people apply for apprentices without even going out to the market. That's just word of mouth pushing in. Like if you can't find apprentices at the moment, you are doing something wrong in your business. All right. Like honestly, those 6 could get a job tomorrow on any electrical contractor. I reckon we're going to give 1 or 2 a crack, maybe. And to have 4 not even have a go at it, like that's something I'm proud of. Not because I don't want to see people actually have an opportunity, but because our standards are going to be so high. These people are going to be someone who comes into the business. Now, I want them to be a future leader. I'm not bringing these people in. They've got no skill. The attitude. I go, this is where you want to be.
I love that because I say it all the time, right? Leaders build leaders. And it's awesome to see you shift from being sort of semi-stuck as an operator, as sort of trying to get to a leader, to now congruent leader.
And not only that, you're right.
I develop people, I want to hire people that we can develop and not develop, because I think operators develop people.
Yep.
But they go, I'm gonna hire my sister's cousin's brother because they can sort of do spreadsheets and shit, and I'm gonna hire them as our admin.
Yeah, look, I've made a few mistakes, and I'm going to own all of them. Like, you can't mix, you can't have friends in business. You got to separate business. People are an employee for a reason, right? When you're a smaller business, you can be really close, but obviously, that if you do want to grow, unfortunately, that does get tarnished over time. Something that obviously you gave me insight into, and I've literally handed them out 2 days ago, is PPFs. Understanding people's goals 1, 3, and 5 years ahead, personally, professionally, and financially. That's key. But these are employees. These people have a home. They have a family. They have a livelihood. They choose to not be a business owner. Any business owner out there that thinks that the employee should be doing more, that's why they're not a business owner. They're a fucking employee. Does it not resonate with people? Otherwise, everyone would be a business owner. It is not easy to be a business owner.
Well, they have a crack, but 50% of them fucking lose it in 4 years.
If people think they're getting into business for money, that is not. Oh, fuck. You do. You got to
money and freedom, right? I want to be a business owner so I can make boats and hoes. Honestly,
yeah, fucking hell. Seriously, if you want to make money, carry around a fucking bum bag, all right? It's not the way to do it. You got to be willing to sacrifice shit. And if people, and I'm happy to tell the whole entire world, I've never been a core driver of money, and maybe that's been a success for me. But other people, if they want this, they want that, well, you can't have two things. You can't have time and money in the same conversation. If you want to save time, you got to spend money. If you want to save money, you got to spend time. All right? Did I say that twice? I don't know.
You were spot on.
Spot on. So I think personally, that's my driver, is if I see people getting into the market, they're not clear on what they want to do. They just go, you know what? I want to earn money. It shouldn't be, I want to be better than that person, or I want to do something different than that person. It should be, I can bring value to the world. That's why you should be doing what you're doing. If you want to start your own business, it's because you can do something different that can better the industry or better the market, or more importantly, do something that gets you out of bed and fucking happy to actually go out there and kick goals before you go to sleep.
Something I had to come to terms with was that as a business owner, if you want the business to grow, you're always growing.
Yeah.
And every level that you get capped at is going to be the cap of the business. Unless you're hiring, unless you've got a big team and a C-suite, I guess if you raise, billions of dollars in capital and you go and hire a whole C-suite team or, CEOs and stuff like that, then they run your business, but you pay them a shit ton of money. I noticed that there's a lot of people who really cap out with the idea of growth. And I think it's because of that whole, I want to make money and I also want to be free and I want to go away every weekend and go jet skiing with the kids and wakeboarding, and I want to have a life and I want to have lifestyle balance, but at the same time, I want to run my business.
Yep.
But building a team means more responsibility.
100%.
More money means more accountability. More people are going to try to sue you. There's more tax implications. There's a whole bunch of work cover shit and all the crap that you got to go through these days with WorkSafe and all of that.
One text message can derail your entire year in a business. One text message. One phone call. One meeting. They're the risks we take. I don't want to have a fucking violin and go, oh, fuck, I live a life on the edge. No. But if you're willing to know that you're not going to be comfortable for a period of time, and
a period, 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, well, I've been technically in business for 10 years, right? And I look at it and go, fuck. I don't look too bad considering, I'll be honest. But I look
you don't look too bad for an 80-year-old.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. My body feels it. Look, in all seriousness though, you look at business and you go, I think this is the one thing that I look at the people I'm around now. That's what I'm proud of. Like the people who I talk to, who will pick up the phone, are the people different than what I was 10 years ago. If you're still around that same core function, your environment's not changing. That means you're not growing personally or professionally. I mean, my number one supporter is my wife. No word of a lie, and I'm her number one supporter. That's your fucking key. If you haven't got that in your back pocket to know that that person's going to fucking ride or die for you, and if it's not switched around the opposite way, like I would move heaven and earth for Michelle. Like that woman, fuck. Like she's just my inspiration. And if that's not what you go home to every single night, then what are you living for? Right? That's your core driver. To then feel that you've got your number one there supporting you and you're then supporting them and you're both aligning to that same goal, right?
But that didn't just happen. Like you said, you had a first marriage.
Correct.
What's the difference between Michelle versus first marriage, and how do you show up different? Because there's a lot of guys out there that I speak to and they're like, oh, you know, the missus this and the missus that. And I'm like, yeah, but you're a fucking asshole, so she's going to be an asshole. Like you're the same, right? Like you
admit
treat
it,
her
you're
like
a fucking
shit.
absolute piece of shit, and you're still blaming your fucking wife.
Yeah, but they're the same people who in business as well. They're always like, oh, it's the fucking staff. No one wants to work these days. It's the fucking economy. Like they always play the victim card, but then they bitch and moan that everyone else is the same.
Yep.
What's the transition and the changes you had from the first marriage to being able to find someone like Michelle who became your supporter? Because I honestly don't believe that shit just happens.
No.
I believe that everything is work. Like when I look at Jess, the person she is today versus the person she was when I met her, two completely different people.
Yep.
One worked in a job, corporate, safe. You know, she's a farmer's daughter, so she works like a motherfucker, but, you know, very low self-worth. To now, she's my ride or die, like my sidekick.
100%.
You know, there are days where she's just like, you know what, fuck him, go nail him. And I'm like, hell yeah. But she's also like sometimes, which I know Michelle does for you as well, is there are some days you walk in the front door and your chest is flared up and you walk in, you think you're Conor McGregor with your flappy arms. And then she's just like, go change the baby, motherfucker. And you're like, oh man, you bring me back down.
Take it off me. I'm done.
And they humble you again. So like what's the transition that you've had to go through in your relationship? I don't believe that you can have a strong, intimate relationship without understanding how to deal with people, which is leadership. Like leaders lead in business and leaders lead in their marriage and leaders lead their kids.
Yep.
You're a leader or you're a follower. Like it's that simple.
Honestly, the difference straight away is that I pleased too much in that first relationship and I ended up resenting it. Mm-hmm. I found someone that I just wanted to keep pleasing and pleasing and pleasing. My validation was the happiness of other people at that point. I had a lot of friends, a lot of people in my life, and I look at it and go, I don't look at it once and actually blame that relationship or that person. I blame me as a person, and then that's what I did. After that marriage, I went, cool. That was a long fucking journey, and it was a big learning lesson. The best thing that happened to me was get learnings out of that, and I still to this day do not blame that individual. When I met Michelle, the most unannounced, unexpected opportunity. I mean, I was coming back over traveling. I was overseas for 3 months. Come back, I was on a massive bend at the old Sea and Vines Festival. And the photo
It's the first place I ever tried wine.
Really?
Yep.
Well, it was a bit more than just wine the day I was there. But anyway, how'd that go for you?
Pretty rough. I woke up the next morning in a house that I didn't even know.
I slept on my mate's porch that night. So
my brother-in-law lived in McLaren Vale and all his friends were winemakers. So they had a ute with a trailer on the back. And we were just piled in with couches and we were just driving from property to property and
it
bouncing.
was the best play. It was the best event. Like no word of a lie. I come home strategically just to go to that one event. I loved it.
Well, my brother-in-law's dad, I wake up in this house, I get an Uber back or a cab back to my brother-in-law's parents' house. And I walk in there and his old man goes, mate, what were you doing running down the street yesterday? I was running down the main street, apparently. I don't remember it, but with a bottle of wine, chasing a car full of girls. God. I don't remember nothing.
The joys, mate. I'm not going to lie. We can probably talk about our stories the whole time. No, but in all seriousness, though, when I met Michelle, the two things that were different was, right, I'm not just going to be on this planet to please others. I want to get a ROI from the effort I put in. And I still did. Like, don't get me wrong, my first marriage, it was we just weren't clear. We were young, all right? Got married when I was 23. All right, I wasn't even sure what I wanted to achieve in my life, and I think we're both. a lot better where we are now. But when I met Michelle, no word of a lie. It was unexpected, unannounced. I was coming back. I had a 5 gig pretty much lined up to go work over in WA. And I was ready to go back overseas after I earned enough money. And I met Michelle. And then we met at a winery. We started chatting. Didn't even get her name. And then somehow she got on the same bus as us. Wasn't on there all day. Got on our bus. There was one seat left. When I walked on the bus, door closes behind me. And then there's literally this woman that I just met sitting there on the chair. There's one spare spot. I sit down. She looks at me and goes, I remember you, and fell asleep on my shoulder. The rest was history. But the driver behind it all was then, I reckon it was 3 days later we started chatting. And this cheeky bitch, no word of a lie, I'll never, ever, ever forget this.
I'm seeing of that clip, this cheeky bitch.
She goes, I'll be bored of you in 2 years. And I was like, 2 years? She goes, no, I'll be bored of you in 2 weeks. And I was like, holy fuck, she's setting a standard here. I'm like, I've never been told I'm boring. She's still me now, baby. Here we are, 10 years later. We are on still, just had a baby girl. I reckon she loves to fight. Don't get me wrong, I'd do her fucking head in. But there's something about me that I bring the best out of her. And oh my God, she is the vice. We are just the most perfect couple. We benefit one another. We balance one another. Don't get me wrong. When we have a Barney, holy fuck, you don't want to be in that house. The best thing that Michelle did though was be open and honest with me. We were both lost where we wanted to be in a relationship, but we both knew we wanted better in our lives when we first met. And then we've just consistently kept wanting to achieve goals. Don't get me wrong, it's had its challenges like any marriage or any relationship. But honestly, like if you're 10 years into your relationship and you're still thriving, and she's probably fucking had 2 hours sleep last night with Nala. I seen her this morning and I was like, how you going? She's like, and I'm like, okay. You got your best friend by your side, right?
That's awesome. What have been some of the key changes? Because both you and Michelle have both come done Thrive Time.
Yep. 100%.
What were some of the biggest changes
mate.
you've learned about human behavior? And then also like you've been part of Odyssey now for 3 years as well.
Yeah.
What are those key learnings that you hear over and over and over again that keep reinforcing your growth and allow you to be the best that you can be both as a leader and a husband?
Yeah, look, you got to prioritize yourself. I know you call it narcissistic, but you got to make sure that you're making yourself happy day in, day out. You're going to be doing the things that get you out of bed and go home happy.
When I say narcissistic, I don't say it in a bad way.
Not in a bad way. No,
there's
you got to put
altruism
yourself.
and narcissism, and you got to have a balance of both.
You never have.
It's just for the listeners, because like most people hear the word narcissism and they're like, oh, fucking.
No. I just like you got to be selfish. Mm-hmm. You got to be selfish, but then the people that you surround yourself with, you got to understand that they're also going to be selfish. When they've got something, it's one of my mates. I was only saying to him maybe 6 months ago. When I'm going to go back 3-4 years ago, and he used to be, you could call him 10 times and he would never answer, and he would ring back. It was his perfect time, his perfect day. It was like, this is when I'll get in touch with you. And I used to get so fired up at him. But then it clicked with me after I did Thrive Time, he's very disciplined. I respect that. That's his time. That's his life, not my fucking life. And that's when it all shifted after doing that, understanding mindset, because you got to realize that people got to be happy doing what they're doing. And if they're not ticking their box, they're not going to be happy. You're not going to get a happy person day in, day out if they're just doing shit for other people all the time. So that's where both Michelle and I, probably in our relationship, there was a bit of resentment there for a while. She gave me a lot of moral support coming through the first, call it 6 years of Green Connect. She still does now. She says to me all the time, who do I send my invoice to for all my counselling services? I'm like, fucking hell, babe. I'd be fucking broke even more. I'd have more cactuses after me. But, she knows that, like, her validation is also helping people. My validation is also bringing the best out of people. So we look at the key elements that we both thrive in, which is fitness, right? We both love to eat well. We both love adventure. What we love the most is just being present. And for me to be present is very difficult as a business owner. But when Michelle accepted that I have ADHD, when she accepted that my brain's different than hers and vice versa, you then balance where your key strengths are, like employees, like friends, like anyone, and you really respect that. That's when you really grow as a person. But without Thrive Time, without understanding the mindset of people, it is like you almost go, well, that person's a fuckwit, or that's not how I would do it. Well, no shit, they're not you. Read the fucking science. Like, everyone's geared different. People have tattoos, people not have tattoos, people drive nice cars, people don't have nice cars. That's okay. Whatever makes you happy is the reason why you're on this planet. And if you're not fulfilling that, you're going to be depressed as fuck.
You spoke about mindset. Now, my whole thing is like life is a mirror. So when you're stressed, life is stressful. Most people think that because life is stressful, therefore they're stressed. It's almost like most people operate 180 degrees around from what I believe and what I've seen working with tens of thousands of people.
Yep.
How have you seen that, and how's your perspective shifted since working with me both one-on-one through Business Odyssey, through doing Thrive Time, and a lot of our courses?
Yep.
How's that changed you thinking through that framework of, you know, everything is really just a reflection of me? Like if I want life to be better, I have to be better. If, you know, I see the worst in people, then I'm just going to live seeing the worst in people versus it seems so simple, but very few people do it.
No, I couldn't agree more. Like, honestly, every time something happens now, so 5 years ago, I used to look at it and go, why me? Now I go, what did I do wrong? What didn't I realize? What did I miss? Straight away look in the mirror and go, right, everything that's happening is a result of something I've either said, done, or didn't do, or do you understand?
Yeah,
like,
so you've got more accountability.
100%. I mean, I've always been accountable for myself, but I probably used to push blame onto other, you know, external factors. Used to blame myself for a certain element, but then I was like, hang on, well, why is this happening? Everything you look at, you got to go, well, if I just done that at that point, or communicated this the right way, or followed through what I said, it wouldn't have happened. And then if you're then still in that same environment, well, then you surround yourself with the wrong people who are probably doing that exact same thing.
How do you keep elevating your standards? One of my frameworks, as you know, that I punch on about all the time is standards times
Even I've fucking lost it now. I know it. Standards times environment equals clarity. No.
Sorry, clarity times standards plus environment.
There you go.
Success.
We fucking had the three
It's
words in
Mojo's
there.
law. I know.
Jesus Christ, it's like my values
My
back to
caffeine's
front.
dropping.
Quick, give me a shot.
No, I went to standards, but it's clarity. So without clarity, standards drop. And you see that every day with employees, right? Like the moment that they're unclear, their standards just plummet.
Yep.
But it happens with us also as well. And then from there, when you've got the right standards, you create the right environment.
100%.
How do you keep elevating your standards as you grow? And how has a lot of the frameworks that I teach and a lot of the mindset stuff that I teach made you better in business?
3 things. Always try and be the smallest fish in the biggest pond, right? Always look at your vision 5 years in advance and go, I want to get there. And 3, surround yourself with people that have either been in the journey or have been where you want to be. That is the only way. Because if you are then disciplined as well, you will get there. Like I said, I go to the gym every day. Like I said to you the other week, I was exhausted. That was an example of, I knew I was exhausted before I went, and then I injured my groin slightly. I went, okay, I got to learn from that. I can't keep doing that. Now I got to be accountable. Next time I feel completely exhausted, I don't go. And it's like, if I'm then all of a sudden pushing myself and I've got other people that are bringing me down or not working to the same level, whether it's at the gym, whether it's, anything in life, you then start to feel like you've outgrown that. So you've got to then elevate yourself into another area where you feel uncomfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable, that means you're growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. So that's my standards. I'm like, you got to keep pushing yourself. That's me. And then if you're disciplined about how you got to that last chapter, then you're going to be disciplined in how you're going to get to that next chapter. And the learnings you got from that, you need to take that into the next one. That's the key.
So always learning from challenges,
100%.
Mistakes, how you can do things better. It's almost like a daily practice,
100%.
Right?
If I didn't fail in my first marriage, if I didn't fail, I wouldn't say I failed in business the first time, but if I didn't consistently keep making the same mistakes, I wouldn't be where I am now. And by no means have I built the most incredible business on this planet. But I tell you right now that I'm so fucking proud of it, so proud of my relationship. I just keep going. I'm destined for fucking success, baby.
I don't even know what the most incredible business on the planet looks like, because if you have a look,
maybe Elon. Let's be honest. Let's address the elephant. Elon's fucking, he's gone all right. But how many?
Financially,
yeah, but
how
look,
much shit do his employees go through, and how much hate does he cop? And
he would be like, his brain would be just geared so different. But he only got that knowledge from not being gifted at birth. He's learnt that through shit throughout his life. He's either been thrown circumstance. I remember there's a photo of him sitting in a room and he's got like more receding hairline than me. And I'm like, that motherfucker was grinding, give him that. You got to give him that, And if you look at any successful business owner, just because you see them successful now, everyone bangs on about it. They went through a war, like this year alone, I look at my last 12 months and going, that was like I went out to war with a fucking baton. Like I'm here, but that was hard work raising a newborn baby, not being present with my wife at certain points because I was committing to the business. Going into the business, supporting that. We in the 2 years I've really worked with you with business, we've gone from a $3 million business to 10. Like that alone, you don't even look at that and you go, fuck, that's massive growth.
The interesting thing though, right? So you've gone from 3 to 10 in the last 2 years that we've been doing some real close work together. But through that journey as well, most people would go, well, I see this all the time on social media where someone's like, yeah, but you're worth 10 million. But you're not worth 10 million because it's like the business made 10, but you got outgoing costs, 100%. You got the tax man's running after you with a strap on cactus. It's,
me and Albo, we're like fucking best mates.
And so there's all of these challenges, but then at the same time, you start to master it and then the market changes. What I wanted to ask you about was how do you consistently deal with market changes? So we've just had changes in tax.
Yep.
So there's more issues with accounting. You've got, you got to change your structures, you've got to change reporting. There's a whole bunch of different shit that you've got to go through in order to keep the business afloat.
Yep.
Then you've got workplace relations laws are changing and HR laws are changing. So you've got to be on top of that shit all the time.
100%.
So most people would think that going from $3 to $10 million is huge growth, huge success because it's money. But at the same time, there's all of this other bullshit. And then plus the market's changing. Employees are becoming more demanding.
Yep.
Whether that's a good thing or not a good thing, I think it depends on industries. And some industries treat people like shit.
Yep.
They probably need to tighten up. Some industries, workers get fucking way too much and are over entitled, and businesses are just getting squeezed until they pop. How do you deal with all that stuff all the time?
Look, I honestly look at what we were at a $3 million business first, and I go, what role was I playing then compared to the role that I'm going to be playing moving forward? And every year, I'm not playing the same role. So then I go, who's playing the roles that I was playing? That's step one to make sure that you can get to the journey you're going to be. To navigate around the financial pressures of a business, look, I'll be honest, I could probably earn easy double, if not triple, working for an employer. I then look at it and go, the cash that you have is king. That is your most prized possession. But you're only going to have cash if you've got the right people. The people that are putting in the effort need to be rewarded. So there's a disciplinary factor that has to be put into business, knowing that if people are putting in the effort for their time, they need to be compensated.
Can I just clarify that? Because you said for their time, potentially challenge you on that, because especially in Australia, there's this fucking stupidity that we get paid for time, but time is worthless.
I'm talking about over and above. I'm talking about the people that go over and above to be a part of your journey. There's people in our company that I know that push and push, and they're not the ones that need to be getting more than others. But I look at it.
So you're talking about value.
Correct.
This is what I'm trying to do, because something that I hear all the time is people go, well, I work hard. And I go, yeah, but what does that mean? And they go, well, I work 40 hours this week. And I'm like, yeah, but I could sit on the couch and do 40 hours.
Yeah.
That doesn't entitle me to shit. What have you actually, and if you have a look, productivity statistics in Australia have almost dropped to zero, at zero growth. So therefore people were attached to time and being paid a wage for time.
Correct.
But time is worth jack shit if value isn't produced.
Correct.
So can you just explain that side of things?
Well, that's what I was sort of getting to, is over the last 12 months, we realized because we went from say 3 to 6 in 1 year, then we went from 6 to 10 over the last, what we were operating at that $3 million revenue isn't now the same as we can operate at 10 and beyond. We got to track things totally differently than what we previously did. Everyone has to play a role. When you get to a business that is at our size, we no longer class as a smaller business. Our tax structures are changing. Our employee structure is changing. Our management level, it's a incredible team we've got, and that doesn't just happen overnight. So what I mean by that is when you get to a certain scale, if you don't understand where you are losing efficiencies, if you're not sure how you could improve, and if people aren't clear on their roles, their structures, and their accountabilities, you are then not only bleeding cash, you're bleeding people's efforts, and you're effectively doing a job as inefficient as possible. So it's key that every part of your journey in business, that if you look at where you were and you go, I was playing multiple roles, it was running like a well-oiled machine, you're an imbecile for thinking that you can keep doing that when you grow, especially when we've gone and almost basically 4x the business. I mean, I have a very large vision, and to some businesses it might be small, but for me, I see this being a $50 million business, and I'm proud to say that. Do I want to take $50 million when people think when they hear that? No, it's not at all. I want to build people to help us get to that, and then that means that I've got 5 times the journey that I've played today to get to that, and that's the most exciting thing.
Yeah, sick. You mentioned about systems and the infrastructure and stuff just in that conversation, right? And
it's key.
How do you handle the fact that you're sold a fantasy when you start a business, which is normally you don't know how to hire people. So you tend to hire a bunch of just like your cousin's brother's mother, or you met some dude who you were talking to at the pub and he's a sparky. And so, you know, next week he's on the books and he's working. So you don't really have a proper hiring process. No. You don't know how to interview properly. You don't know how to create accountabilities. You just go, here's a job, go fucking do it. And then you expect that you're going to, you know, again, make boats and hoes from, you know, two or three guys working on the tools. But the truth is that they're probably going to churn cash because they don't have clarity. And so you go through all this chaos. And then the industry, like my industry, the education industry or the coaching space or whatever, there's all these books out there that are written by operations people, not business owners, right? I always say one of my philosophies is that great entrepreneurs have autobiographies written about them. Operations people write books about business operations. Very rarely do you find an entrepreneur who writes an operations type book.
No, 100%.
And so all these people then they go out and they go, my business is fucked. I better start putting in systems and processes because they're reading all the ops books about business. But they think that operations is going to solve all their people problems and inefficiencies and all that sort of shit. Can you run us through how you went through that process of being an operator thinking like that to how you think about systems and processes and infrastructure in the business now and staff?
Nah, look, I honestly, like operating a $3 million business back a few years ago, like you can't operate at the same standard as today. And from my perspective, like when you go initially get your business course, you don't get taught any of this stuff. You just get in there, you just grind for those first few years. You don't look at the finances, you don't look at the tax plan, you don't look at the growth that it's going to suck the cash. You just look at just bringing in revenue and just pushing. And I remember said to my accountant right at the start, he goes, what's your 5-year vision? I said, I just thought I'd put some stupid number. I said, 5 million and 20 blokes. And he goes, oh yeah? I fucking made that in like, no, I think it must have been 3 and 20. Whatever it is, I did it in 3 years. And he's like, so you can get to work. That's not the issue. But I didn't know the other back-end fundamentals of the business. Not about, like I said, cost tracking, planning. When you really start to look at when you know your numbers, when you know where your margins are, when you know where, if you need to have a growth phase, what cash backing you need, how important, you know, your debitors and creditors are, looking at, you know, the function of just employees and how much a new employee costs to bring on, and then the training involved and to get into the standard. Yeah, like our cost tracking system now, our recruitment process, everything's set out so we know exactly where we sit. We know, like, you know, the budget we're doing for 26, 27 financial year, you know, we'll get closed off next week, working on that as we speak. We weren't doing that in the years ago. You know, I'd started that about 3 years ago, really clean. And then when I guess the point of it all is before I met you, I went, I don't know my numbers. And that was probably half the purpose as to why I had a bit of a turnover, is because I was just chasing revenue, not looking at my margins, not looking at my my cost to complete projects, nothing like that. I was just looking at, we're making money. Well, hang on. I think we're making money. We're busy. I was just bleeding cash. So
Awesome. What does the winning standard mean to you?
The winning standard is creating a business and a lifestyle where I can wake up every single day and be proud of what I achieve when I went to bed.
Wicked. Thank
I
you.
nearly said wet the bed, but when I
do
go
that
to
too.
bed, when I go to bed, I did that when I was about 2 years old, all right? So
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Two
No, I
weeks
probably
ago.
did it about 5 years ago when I was on the piss. I do remember that.
Awesome. Well, we're going to end the podcast there. Anyway, mate, thanks so much for being part of the community and thanks for jumping on the podcast. If anyone wants to reach out to you, or where can they find you on socials or
Mate,
Pornhub?
yeah, obviously, no, definitely not in that industry. Look, obviously, Insta labels Ryan Frahm, Ryan_Frahm. LinkedIn, you can find me across all the socials. Look on my webpage, you know who I am, get my details. It's pretty simple. Adelaide's a small place.
It is. Awesome. Thank you.
Love your work. Thanks, Ledge.
Done. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.